I'm Corbett Wall with the USDA Livestock and Grain Market News. Here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market report for the week ending May the 17th, where you had yearling feeder cattle selling mostly steady. There was some wavering there in some of the major markets, but really not much more than $1 or $2 in either direction. And by the week's end, I think most of your major markets and your big yearlings selling mostly steady. Now calves steady to $3 lower in the southeastern markets and bordering areas like Missouri, Arkansas, East Texas, places like that, steady to $3 lower. Other parts of the country not really well tested, as there's just not enough fall calvers in the other places out west and up in the Midwest to really test the market on new crop calves this time of year. And all your old crop stockers are gone by now, so really the only good test you're going to get on light calves this time of year is in the southeast. And the main reason they were steady to $3 lower is the weather has gotten right for hay production, corn planting. A lot of your big producers that are diversified and have crops and hay and cattle, they just didn't demand as many calves. And also most of your other cattle are all turned out in your major grazing regions, so just kind of lighter calf demand around. The only really bidders that they had, besides some shippers that stay in the market all the time, is some local demand that they did have there in the southeast. But your yearling market was supported late in the week. We did see some of the higher prices that we saw in yearlings posted in Thursday sales, and that was not supported by the board. The feeder cow futures was just kind of weaker all week long and ended up losing a couple dollars by the end of the week. But still, your demand for yearlings was still pretty good. You still had order buyers in the sales late in the week filling orders, as they know we're coming up next week. Going to be running into Memorial Day. And then when we get into that time, and then on beyond Memorial Day till we get to some yearling specials, there's just not going to be that many cattle available for sale. So the runs are going to get a lot lighter, and trying to get some cattle kind of put together and bought on order before those runs completely run out. But in the Midwest, especially the upper Midwest, it just changed from winter to summer. There was no spring to speak of at all. We had just snow flying just the other day and frost warnings, and then all of a sudden this week, extreme hot weather with way over 100 degrees. Get in places like Omaha, Sioux City, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 100 degrees posted in all those areas, and just extreme heat. Broke records by not 1 or 2 degrees, but 5 or 6 or 8 degrees. And but they needed that to get things kind of dried out, get that the ground temperature up a little bit. And those guys and all through the corn belt everywhere, guys are planting corn left and right, day and night, and really catching up by leaps and bounds on this late planting that we have this year. But in Mitchell, South Dakota, during all that heat there on Thursday, they had a good sale. Like I said, those late sales were pretty good. They had a good test of 800 to 900 pound yearling steers, averaged 840 pounds at 133.68. Still pretty respectable. Good test, over 550 head of 9 weight steers, averaged 950, 123.67. So still selling cattle pretty good. It's a lot lower than it was a year ago this time, and we've come back off some highs we had there several weeks ago. But cattle on feed report this Friday, kind of neutral on the berry side a little bit. On feed inventories come out at 96.6. The average guess was right around that at 96.3. Your marketings of fed cattle was 102.2, and they had guessed 102.9. But placements again, that's the hardest thing to pinpoint, it seems like. The actual come in at 15.1% more than the same time a year ago. And we knew that last April was really light placements, but still the guessers had it up at 112 and missed it there by 3 percentage points. But if you had looked at the nationwide auction receipts through the weeks that corresponded for April sales this year compared to a year ago, and the nationwide auction receipts on this report, they were exactly 15% more. And remember on here a few weeks ago, we said that these April auction runs were just heavier than what we thought they were going to be. And cattle were just selling right along. So we kind of knew that that was going to be coming. But a lot of guys are speculating about this, how these numbers are gathered, if we're getting the right numbers or not, because they take this information from confinement feeding facilities of 1,000 head or more. And there's some people that think that there's not many 1,000 head or smaller feeding facilities, and some people think there's more. But it's been several years since we got a good handle on that. Personally, I think there are more, and some of them that had been abandoned several years ago are back in production because we have the distillers' grains so accessible here in the Midwest and Northern Plains area. But a lot of these guys aren't using them for true feedlots. They're buying calves, big calves and lighter weight yearlings, and they're taking them to a heavier weight, but they're not finishing those cattle out. They're plenty fleshy when they get done with them, but they're taking them up there to 850, 900, maybe up to 1,000 pounds and getting rid of them because there's still a lot of demand for those cattle earlier, at that weight. But whenever you look at trying to sell those cattle finished, these guys don't have the ability to deal with the packers like the bigger feedlots do, so they'd rather just keep them at that weight. This week, fats were 50 cents to $1 lower, mostly in the Southern Plains, 125 to 125 and a half. Started selling some here late Friday, 125, 126, so that's a buck or so lower there, and these feedlots are still kind of cashing in on that basis that they're getting, but they're losing a lot of market position on the way. But your regional weighted averages this week in the north central states, 800 to 900 pound steer cost you 131.71 compared to 131.12 last week and 145.37 a year ago. Down in the south central states, a 700 to 800 pound steer cost you 132.54 compared to 133.56 last week and 151.36 a year ago. Down in the southeast, a 500 to 600 pound steer cost you 139.94 compared to 142.75 last week and 164.43 a year ago. That wraps up your feeder market summary for this week. We will not have a video next week as we're going to be taking a long weekend, and you guys are going to be busy with your family over Memorial Weekend anyway and won't be needing this video. But that wraps up your summary for this week. Check out our website for more market information at marketnews.usda.gov. And from the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.